So it means that even though he's a strong man and he has his armor and he believes that Yonkindo is in peace, but should one who can overpower him come, then ayikho into safe kweyakhe. Okay. So yeah, I'll start from there's an age when the biblical studies, when you just study Goni age, once we Neolithic, it's called the Neolithic age. There's the Neolithic and then there's the Archaic. Now, these two ran parallel, so you can't really and in the Neolithic age, I'll use the biblical Neolithic lineage here, Abraham, where Abraham was the first one in his lineage. And whilst Abraham was first in his lineage, he then had Isaac. But then after Isaac had his Ningan, and then when he had his Ningan, Lezo Ingani, Zazi, and that's now the migration is based purely on if as Islam did, we need to go hunting. So the land, there was no houses, there was none. So imagine you're the first people, you're the first people, Norma, there's different groups. And then you know about it, and then how you grow is when you have children. And then when those children grow, they have their children, so you grow and you become, that's why I call it Yasemakaya Utsolus Egold. So Tonjabasila, song, every house here, Utsos Magum kids, yonke mizela yam kids. So you need to go to the other side, Pine Town. And then you find Mklape Gold and Ndlovu, and then you go to a separate, so what Kanjalo, so that's called the Neolithic age, that build up. Where Batanabe sees, the Archaic age now moves parallel because in the Neolithic age we try to so if you're following Impala or you're following the Spring Parks or you're following, but it's just purely for Inya. Also when they migrating this direction, nani la ilwane badekela ngakhona nizwe ngakhona, and then nihlale lapho, and then you always like thotsi lapho kuleyo ndawo right. Sometimes it's good water neyilwane izilapho kuleyo area. So abanye decided to talk about circulation because when it came to grazing, because abanye when they grew, they domesticated the ilwane. Abe domesticated, so umuntu sefake like ihashi, imagine ihashi in those times like untrained. Now that's a wild horse will beg, so you domesticating the suswana starts as beg, then Messi as train, so name komo ganjalo. So it's Sahambeg because that place is good for them, so Messi and then Messi pull it up and they become a nation. Now there's a key here. So now Abraham was the father. Wow. Now Abraham was sent to the land where he went. Which brings into play the Archaic age, where abantu babekhula ngama-cults, like belief systems, where in these cults baqala ukuthi thina sinonkulunkulu wethu wamanzi, abanye banonkulunkulu wabo wemfuyo, abanye banonkulunkulu wabo, you know, like how if you're going to follow the mottos of Funda kahle kuyisizulu kwakukhona lesikhathi lesibakuthiwa no banganethi fanele na baya kuNkulunkulu wakhe nomkhulu wakhe to ask for rain. That was lezo ikhathi, it's called the Archaic age where people grew in understanding spirits. So yes, there was growth of the nation, but when the nation was growing, they also kuba ne-periods that accompanied them. And so continue from last week, whenever Holy Spirit says you begin to produce what the Spirit, what is in alignment with the Spirit. So when this was account, about later developed life was what Kalakona, where the father of the clan, so most we are humble to Yabuki Pipe building is saw Joshua, no Moses, the kings there have the position of he's a king and a priest at the same time. So priesthood comes in when he's in service to his God. And if you want to do your research on Ufaro, which was the god that he was submitted under. So and people grew because it started not as kings being king priests, it started as fathers of homes. Being in their homes, the king, who's the head of the whole clan. Number two, becoming the priest who is in charge of the god that's supposed to be head of the clan. So when he's the head as the king of his home. But Pezulwake is another head, which was the god. And in service to that god that provides for this house, that now was the priesthood also. So that's why by Perility, he has made us unto our gods kings and priests. So there's a sphere in which you are placed to have dominion, and also you have a sphere where you are placed to be now submissive. So when we are in church, we are all submitting to God. And then him now as the one over will speak, and then he will choose people to speak to, and then we'll say, oh, God is saying 1 or 2 or 3. That now reveals the office of priesthood. But in your home, you decide. This is the thing. You don't ask God for a financial, you don't ask God for, you even have our preferences and our choices. I'm just saying. So the build up, so now, what the Bible is saying here is talking about a strong man. Now, according to those days, there was the divisions of the city. So it started off as cities. Like it grew, that's why it sees one against none. Then the city is none, it grows into a city. Then this city grows. What's bigger, a town in the city? City. The city is bigger. Yes. So we got the town. Then the town gives birth to a city. Then the city gives birth to because after a province, then you have it on provincial level.
City gives birth to a region.
A region then gives birth to a province ahead. Then so then you find as Gokola, Konabanya, and it's because of the difference in gods. Konabanya must say, as Gulugulako, we are 7. Magzio and it is no moon, you say Gulugulako, we are 7. Magzio, Mtapempuye, Oako, Magzio Malin. Oako, so Masebe Tangana was what you did to my elders. So what's the name, man? It's what Mal is Yakisha for the efficiency of the land. And that grew. So when that grew, we need to understand it's growing under a spirit. And every time we feel so spirit will still lay a structure. The spirit will lay a structure. And when that spirit will lay a structure, you give birth to the structure that the spirit has. So he says, when the strong man comes, so the spirit that's giving the structure at that point is the strong man. And the reason why he's called the strong man is that when you come into his territory, He's not just going to say, "Uzufike no wako." Usuzokhipha no wami. So you need to understand that in that land, the people are his treasure. Because they're his workforce in terms of bringing out the dating agala. We understand, so that's why it's his palace, his palace. So Abanbak and the land that he occupies, the land that the spirit or the strong man occupies, is his. There's a strong man of families. So in a family, there's a strong man circle. That's why uthola nomuntu umnika advice ezosebenza. The strong man and his convictions is the one that will say, "We are better, lo." Better, lo. And then the convictions of the strong man are the ones in which you answer a situation, or they determine the way in which you react to your situation. So when you believe, this is how I react naturally, but you don't react kanjalo naturally. You are reacting according to the spirit that has rule over you. And that spirit that has rule over you is the one that determines what kind of home you build. Then from the home level, we have the community. We have the strong man of communities. And the strong man of communities is the one that communicates with the strong man of families. And the strong man of families is the one that says, in this region, this is what I need. So when he gives the instruction to the strong man in the whole, in each family. So he asks also, if development there, when it comes to that family, how far have you gone? Then who's also know, and therefore, how far shall we push this agenda in this family? Because the outcome is one of death. Now, what we need to understand is that we are all, when we're dealing with God, according to the book of Genesis, it says that when sin multiplied in the land, he was angry. And in him being angry, it means that he destroys everything. God begins to destroy everything. Genesis 6. I'm just going to say it. So that was, unless, no, but let's just say, because before he called Noah, he described at that particular time. He says that even the hearts of these people, what they perceive or how they think is perpetually evil. And this started from Abraham, this started from Noah, speaking in alignment with the spirit that had possessed him at the time. So it means that the advancement of that spirit within those generations had led them to a state of perpetual darkness. You see, whenever a spirit gets you to sin, and you commit that sin, he goes to heaven and demands an immediate verdict concerning your situation. And based on the verdict that is released by heaven concerning your situation, it gives him the right to continue to build the dark heart. On the earth, there's always systems of checks and balances. Checks and balances. It's like it's let's use an individual. Hola. Nifasebenza ehola ukudla makwaphela mhlawumbe phakathi nenyanga. It means that you didn't budget properly. So now you go back to a system yakhe checks and balances to check ukuthi okay, system engiyisebenzisa, where did I go wrong? Angate. Because your shortfall, the outcome just like when you sin, the verdict concerning the earth is what gives him the right to establish a system in your family. So the deeper you are in sin, the deeper these heavenly verdicts have been given. He's solidifying his position. The earth is the fullness thereof. It's speaking about God. The earth is the fullness thereof. Psalms 24. We're coming back to this. We're coming back to the strong man. Oh, the earth is the Lord, and the fullness thereof. He's like the earth is the Lord. I'm saying about the Lord. I forgot the Lord's way, Jehovah. I use plural.
Hey, mighty.
Psalms 24. So this is the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. So Masakulma about the fullness thereof. Now he describes his sphere, God's sphere of dominion. He says, one, the world. And he says, and they that dwell therein. So when he says the earth, and everything that grows out of it. And not just them, but Laba, who we in the church say that they are in the world. He says that his sphere of dominion is also over them. And he says that, and everybody else that dwells therein. That's called sphere of dominion. So if the earth belongs to the Lord, and the Lord wants to come to Ndumiso's house, the strong man will then pull out Amapepak and his verdicts. And he says that, Lord, I understand that you want to occupy land, but based on these, I have the right. Then I get it by a strong, but I'm still destroyed in Sakunma, the strong man, and the language between spirits. Is that, we are sure to know, but yes, the earth is the fullness, but however, this particular sphere of territory is mine. Unless Kubakona Ozongena as the seed to overturn indlela zokwenza kwalabantu, which then disallows the influence of this spirit and enables him to come in. So it's the strong man keeping. Number two, the Bible talks about this strong man. Now this strong man has armor. It says on Gitsi, it says it's fully armed. Listen, John. Me just check. Imagine these things will come by now. So it says, the strong man is fully armed. And if this strong man is fully armed, then we need to understand his armor, in which he uses to protect and keep his treasure. And what he uses is very simple. It is a strong man. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 4. To make sure abantu bahleli in his position. That's his armor. Second Corinthians chapter 4, verse 4. He says, in whom the God of this world had blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine upon them. So when the show, number one, his armor is to blind the minds. From you seeing Christ as the deliverer. And that's why when you walk into some places, but right, no. They're very comfortable in that sphere. So it means that his weapon at that particular point in time is working. Now, this in which he uses here to blind the mind is what we call the spiritual veil. There's veil for community, the veil for cities, there's a veil for nations, there's a veil for countries. There's a veil, and they all to keep you from the knowledge of God. They all there to keep you away from the knowledge of God. You know, this morning when I was praying, he said to me, sometimes God is funny. You know, he can be praying and pulling down demons, and he can just come and talk about something else. So he comes speaking about equality. He says, have you not read in my law, the book? He says that the borrower is a slave and gets into the lender. He says, thou shalt not borrow. So he says, everybody is praying for more money to get out of debt, but nobody deals with the spirit that keeps you borrowing. About there's the spirit, and then he says, the strong man has handled finances. The key is to put people in a position where they keep borrowing. And he says, if you don't deal with the spirit that's handling your finances and the structure in which he has laid, you will find because this thing is common. And he says, and we speak about death. Yes. So it means that there's a spirit, he ensures it's not the power to pay back, but it's to keep you in a position where there's a need to borrow. So he said, thou shalt not borrow, but thou shalt lend. So he says, you can't lend if you're still a borrower. Because even if the blessing comes, where we're building up, where 4,000 and we haven't seen that, so we are saying because yonke sinayo isineskwele says it's bigger no, listen, he says, he's not speaking. He was telling me about a spirit. He says that is the structure of the spirit. The spirit that lays out when it comes to finances. Because when you get to a point, there's a certain point, and at that point, the W, which is called work. Kuvuleka amanye ama-avenues kuvuleka ikweleti yabo ubone ukuthi ngizohlephula. And he's saying ukuthi it is not the people, it is the spirit that has influence over them that allows them to think, it enables them to think meanwhile you're moving in a trap. It is not. It's the spirit that has dominion over you, that aligns you with equality. You need to understand. That aligns you to death. Because umuntu ongena square to 12,000. I'm very peaceful. No matter 10,000 ongena square, that person is very peaceful. Akanaso. So the freedom now. You can imagine the reason why is the amount of debt that we are in. No, it's he says it is unless we did it, that is the strong man when it comes to finances, and it's his domain. And he, unfortunately, he's not even in the church that everybody, Mama is gonna pray for debt cancellation. Everybody will jump because when a strong man, so his armor, his pamsa loyal, his weapon is death. Youngish, once I was praying, I was like, "Oh, me panenda, so man, you should see Imalia, my pet, so he says, Puma with debt, and then once you're outside of debt, and you pay your tithe, then you will see the results of it. Amen. Kumbola ngithi yena unephepha liphethwe uthi uNkulunkulu njalo efuna ukinvesta kuma finances akho lo donsa usanekweleta. Still indebted to me in my system. So a heavenly system does not have the capacity to sustain because you are still in another system trying to pull your way out. Meanwhile, according to the system that you are in. That's why you will not borrow, but you shall lend to many nations. Or more in the mind, the lending to many nations. But if you deal with the borrowing situation, you don't let you buy. You don't let them in prisons and captures. I don't preach the prosperity gospel. I believe that now we're dealing with spirits, and these spirits have a system that's going on with government. So it means that the strong man is armed. Lord's not called the strong man is armed. So for as long as he's armed, he keeps his palace. His palace is safe. Everything that says him is safe for as long as his armor is still working. He believes he is powerful. And that is why when you come to some families and you ask about death, but put some again. Put it right again. Put it back on. It's one who say, then as in camping it, stress and you know. And I believe most of us are like that. Some days, this is cast months ago. So it's a job. And I'll pray so like a miraculous money so come or bani. Then we settle this debt. In that defeat, uvuleka ama-avenues ezinye izinto ubona ukuthi la ngeke ngikhokhe ngiqede ngizohlephula. This one came fresh excel when I was praying. It came fresh excel when I was praying. And he said, man, even in my notes, it came straight. Before sikhulume ngestructure ehlukahlukene, let's talk about the financial structure. So let's say with financial structure, saying deliverance, he's just simply telling you you are talking about my name standing with system yomu, going in that direction. Yes, man. Yes, man. Meanwhile, so God is also looking at you and saying, not whilst this system is in operation, I will sanje.
Yeah.
I'm not a harsh preacher. I'm not a harsh preacher, but later. So the pinch that you are feeling is the same pinch I felt. It's the same one I'm feeling. Yes, equally. Why me I'm also No, it's very important, but the truth must come. That the glory of the light of the gospel must shine, even in our finances. Who was so understand? No, it's very simple. We just not in debt. That is all. And by not being in debt, we have our financial freedom. Because the slave is us. In this whole equation of things, it's in the slave. We are enslaved to a demon, and this demon ensures that we are in bondage financially. So whenever we thinking this is just also suggestion so this people is stronger than he. So this is him now. We just described what we are talking about was verse 21, which is talking about him and the safety of his palace. So for as long as the Amayaki, right, the safety of his palace. So who right? So if ever you want to understand what is wrong, you need to look at the structure, the output. The output. And if you can see Ndlovu Hambanga is going into more debt, then it means God is not in charge of that sphere of your life. And if Ndlovu Hambanga is going towards financial freedom, then you need more of God there so that this one doesn't come. Because he will not just let you go because he feels like it. This is a demonic system. It is meant not just to control. In Kinga, there's communities being held by this one spirit. There's communities being, about nations being held. Even in South Africa, Ukobola is in debt. We understand what the spirit is enjoying. I could let the church, everybody is saying that the church will rise in power. Meanwhile, not Islam. Oh, Father, deliver us. Deliver us. Then this Bible, when a stronger than he shall come. Now this is the light of the glorious gospel. Masefika leli it comes to disable him from his influence. Okay, so when Christ died, they cover God. The first thing he did was cover the dead. So it means that because sinners understand, we don't understand the death of Christ. We continue to be in this system. And the reason why we are in this system is because our minds are not renewed. We still have a stronghold. So when Christ came, he paid the debt. Let's see by pay and overcome him and take it from him all his armor in which he trusted. So we are all when the strong man lowest speed overcomes him, the first thing he takes is his armor, which is the ability to blind. So the first thing that God needs to take from our lives is the ability to make equal in. Because that's the weapon that the enemy is using. God, and we need the grace from God to ensure that so then when we start paying our tithe, then we will see as far as we should increase. We ask him 4,000, my one get 8,000 and extra. I let him make because what it does is this person so shara kubana keswele. No makone sinye egate abo ayiki into two sanje ngokwenza into right thing because you can afford it. Yeah, this is not the Bible, this is me speaking. Where one is cast lad and guess what on the most recently Ben Kalu's and gay wake you stay. That wake you stay, say, stay to you, he wake you. That's it, what is it's wake you, that's he wake you. But it's wake you. So must say it's anyway we stay. Shoot must say let's take you see Malin. Once you command about see la go 1.8 this year 2000 he played his me. Give me now he played the bizarre. Ngeke. The reason why that he boogie kwele. So ikhola mliqale libuke ikwele so yabona noma ngathiwa iyangijabule mazana nabo ngisho ukuzijabulisa mozobona ikwele eziningi ngawo ave kubukhulu yazi usuku we always looking into your bank account 608 yabo kona upetrol yabona Jehovah all of this is because we are under the control of this spirit. Okay. Let's look at the practicality of it. In closing, in the last part. In closing, we 2 Samuel. Oh, God, punish the devil. Just 21 and so. Oh, punish that. The Apollo Satan no way, kwele do. Hey. We are the soul. 2 Samuel chapter 21. It's verse 1 to I don't know. So Imagine I don't know when the lines are. You let that okay. So verse 21 tell us from the phone. Okay, from verse 1. Please read chapter 21 from verse 1. There's some things that it's highlights. I'm just going to highlight as we move.
2 Samuel chapter 21 verse 1.
This is the practicality of the scripture. It is fun now to see it practically now.
Now there was a famine in the days of David for 3 years, year after year, and David inquired of the Lord. And the Lord answered, it is because of Saul and his bloodthirsty house, because he killed the Gibeonites.
Yeah, amen. So because Saul killed the Gibeonites, there was famine for 3 years because he killed them. So it means that the spirit is down is one of famine. And for as long as God wants to intervene lapho, lo uleke ekhuluma ngokuthi lo wabulala ama-Gibeonites. Therefore ayikho imvula ezayo la. It's a spirit. Ubambe, so structure sakhe. It means that when Saul was a king, indlela ispirit ade simhambisa ngayo that was upon him led him to killing the Gibeonites. And that led the land into a drought. So if you're the husband of a house, you should always be the one to ensure that the God of your house is the accurate one. Because once the spirit lays his structure, you know. Let's go back.
Yep, verse 2. So the king called the Gibeonites and spoke to them. Now the Gibeonites were not of the children of Israel, but of the remnant of the Amorites.
Yes.
The children of Israel had sworn protection to them, but Saul had sought to kill them in his zeal for the children of Israel and Judah. 3. Therefore David said to the Gibeonites, what shall I do for you? And with what shall I make atonement, that you may bless the inheritance of the Lord? And the Gibeonites said to him, you will have no silver or gold from Saul or from his house, nor shall you kill any man in Israel for us.
Yes.
So he said, whatever you say, I will do for you. And they answered the king, as for the man who consumed us and plotted against us, that we should be destroyed from remaining in any of the territories of Israel. 6. Let 7 men of his descendants be delivered to us, and we will hang them before the Lord in Gibeah of Saul,
whom the Lord
chose.
Now, mighty, we need to understand utufuna 7 sons. The number 7 is always the number of fullness. So number 7 is the full atonement for the crime that was done. So Jesus was the full sacrifice. You guys may understand. Anything that was missing, Jesus Christ is the fullness of it. So he's the number 7 to any kind. In he paid the price. Talking about him paying the price. If that says, I own this one, Jesus has the right to say, but he may make him own now. But the first ability that Jesus will give you when he's dealing with your case is so pretty well. He's not pouring money. As you understand, if lenders understand, go to seven a procedure. I've seen people talking about debt cancellation. I don't know when it's a crazy available. I've never seen it in my life. I've never seen it happen. But but me, never uses shortcuts. I showed it. If go a shortcut, then the shortcut is equivalent. The suffering will be equivalent to in the land. So if as a study process, 3 months, you best believe every suffering that you're supposed to go through in 3 months, at least 1 month, will stretch you to the fullest. I normally hear people talking about prophetic speed. You'll outrun horses, don't worry, you'll outrun the horses, but the suffering for the glory. There's always a glory, the suffering that accompanies Leo for that glory. Oh, God bless you. You go through. So the sacrifice. So it's the Lord Jesus now being sacrificed, 7 of his sons. So please keep to verse 10. And get in now by the 7 sons. We are saying now that the sons are atoned for. The atonement of the land is Sipele. Right. Verse 10.
Verse 10. Now Rizpah, the daughter of Aiah, took sackcloth and spread it for herself on the rock, from the beginning of harvest until the late rains poured on them from heaven. And she did not allow the birds of the air to rest on them by day, nor the beasts of the field by night. And David was told that Rizpah, the daughter of Aiah, the concubine of Saul, had done.